very much. First of all, can we say thank you to all the staff here at Pitsea Leisure Centre for helping us out today and letting us have our event here. And I want to say big thank you and best good wishes for a fantastic result to Byron and Katie for the campaigns they are waging locally. We need Labour MPs of their determination and their calibre to represent this area in Parliament. We need Labour MPs that understand the lives of people and understand the difficulties that so many are going through. Byron and Katie are those to do it. Well done on your campaign. And I'll be watching closely for the results. And can we also say a really big special thank you to Angela Smith for all the work she did when she was the MP for this area and the work that she's done ever since then as our leader in the House of Lords, a member of our shadow cabinet, part of the team in the House of Lords, challenging the government day in, day out, and delivering victories over the government on a number of issues, including working tax credits. Angela is a credit to the Labour Party, the way she stood up for our Labour values in the House of Lords. And thank you to all of you for coming here today and being here today. And thank you, Keir, for what you just said. And to our excellent Brexit team here today. Look at the intelligence and the competence that is there amongst those three. It does seem a long time ago now, but this election was called by the Prime Minister 3 years early, supposedly in order to make Britain's exit from the European Union easier for her to manage. She may be regretting that decision, but who knows? A lot has happened since then. The terrible atrocity in Manchester, above all, which has driven home the need to be more effective in the action we take to protect our people, both at home and abroad. So we should think carefully on the horrors of Manchester and the sadness that those families are going to live with for the rest of their lives. We will not allow anyone to destroy our right to enjoy ourselves, for women to go out and enjoy themselves. That is part of the fabric of our society. We're not going to be divided by this. We're going to be united by this, and united with the kind of Britain we, all of us, want to live in. And then we have the extraordinary meltdown of the Conservative Party's own manifesto within days of it being launched. Having declared war on Britain's pensioners, it is now all but impossible to find anyone who can tell you what the Conservative Party policy actually is on the crucial issue of social care, or how many million people stand to lose their winter fuel payments. The older generation is being reminded of a central truth in British politics. You can't trust the Tories. You can't trust the Tories with your pension, with your tax credits, with your personal independence payments, with your national insurance contributions. One U-turn and broken promise after another by this Conservative leadership has made that absolutely clear. At the same time, we've launched Labour's own manifesto, setting out our positive, fully costed policies on the funding of the National Health Service, scrapping university tuition fees, recruiting 10,000 more police officers, raising the living wage to £10, protecting our pensioners' incomes, building more than 1 million new homes, and much more. We're asking the people of this country for their support, above all on the basis of that programme of social justice. But it's also right that we return to the issue of Brexit. Negotiations with the European Union leaders will start in just 18 days. And the British people have a choice over what priorities, what principles the British government will take into those talks, and which team they trust to lead the difficult negotiations ahead. I am very proud to be joined here today by Labour's team of Brexit negotiators. Keir Starmer, Emily Thornberry, and Barry Gardiner. Keir, Emily and Barry, enormous knowledge, collectively a huge amount of experience. Who better to negotiate for us than calm, sensible, intelligent, rational individuals than these three here? They're going to do it. They have the experience to get the best. We know the three Tories in whose hands Theresa May has placed our future. David Davis, Boris Johnson and Liam Fox. No, I don't do personal attacks. So let me just say that in Labour's Brexit team, there is no one who has fibbed to the British people about spending an extra £350 million a week on the NHS because of Brexit. And nobody who has promised to use Brexit to slash workers' rights or slash tax for corporations in a continental race to the bottom, or peddled illusions about the difficulties ahead. We in Labour understand that getting the right deal, one that secures our country's interests for the long term, will be challenging. A matter of serious planning and negotiation, not hectoring and threats. Labour is ready to deliver a deal that gives British business and British society the chance to thrive in a post-Brexit world. A deal that will allow us to upgrade our economy through public investment in infrastructure and high-skilled jobs. A deal that will make Britain a centre for science, technology and research, attracting the brightest and the best from around the country and the world through strategic investment. A deal that allows us to transform Britain into a country with the strongest rights and protection and ends exploitation and undercutting in the labour market. A deal that allows us to become a country that values and protects its public services and invests in all of its communities. And a deal that will allow Britain to be a safe and outward-looking country, strengthening friendships and working with allies to create a better future for our country, continent and our planet. The Conservatives want a mandate for their Brexit plan, a plan that puts jobs and living standards at risk and threatens to turn our country into a low-wage, offshore tax haven. Changing our economic model, as Theresa May so delicately puts it, leading a race to the bottom in public services and working conditions. From the party that closed down huge chunks of British industry under Margaret Thatcher and now pays for tax handouts for the richest with cuts in our vital public services. They haven't changed their spots. So far, the rhetoric and threats from the Tory government has fostered a toxic climate. Labour will start negotiations by setting a new tone. We will confirm to the other member states that Britain is leaving the European Union. That issue is not in doubt. But instead of posturing and pumped-up animosity, a Labour government, under my leadership, will set out a plan for Brexit based on the mutual interests of both Britain and the European Union. We will start by giving a clear commitment to every EU national who lives here and works here to contribute to a huge amount and contributes a huge amount to our society. They will be guaranteed their existing rights and remain in this country. And it's clear through our discussions with European leaders that it would be the best way to secure reciprocal rights for British nationals living in other parts of the European Union. And I have written to colleagues in every single one of the member states asking them to ensure that British nationals living in their countries can remain there with exactly the same rights they enjoy at the present time, so that family life and family union isn't broken up by this decision. I think that's the sensible, decent, human way we should approach this issue. It is shameful the Conservatives haven't acted on this already, that 3 million members of our communities have been left in limbo. The Conservatives' refusal to make the simple commitment that decency demands is a stain on this government's reputation. and Labour will be clear from the start. Britain's economy, business and workforce need tariff-free access to European markets to protect jobs and living standards and secure that access will be a priority for us. Britain certainly can thrive and prosper outside the EU. Our businesses are creative, industrious and inventive, but they need access to European markets. They need to be part of the unimpeded supply chains, and they need the chance to grow beyond our borders in order to protect and create jobs, wealth and opportunity. And the EU's member states have a mutual interest in maintaining and developing that trade with this country. So Britain needs a Labour government. Instead of putting our economy first, the Conservatives' reckless approach has left us isolated and marginalised, increasing the chances of Britain crashing out of the EU without a deal, which would be the worst possible outcome for this country. Britain is leaving the EU, but let's be clear, there's no such thing as no deal. If we leave without a positive agreement because we have needlessly alienated everyone, we still have to trade with the EU, but we'll have to have terms for that trade, and very bad ones at that. Theresa May says no deal is better than a bad deal. Let's be clear, no deal is in fact a bad deal. It is the worst of all deals. Because it would leave us with World Trade Organization tariffs and restrictions instead of the access to the European markets that we need. That would mean slapping tariffs on the goods we export, an extra 10% on cars, with the risk that key manufacturers would leave for the European mainland, taking the skilled jobs with them. In sector after sector, no deal would prove to be an economic disaster. Theresa May's approach risks a jobs meltdown across Britain. Instead, Labour will negotiate a tariff-free deal with the EU, which will benefit both sides. And we will transform our economy for a post-Brexit Britain through a new industrial strategy. That will use powers returned from Brussels, and we will rewrite the rules of our economy so it serves the interests of the many rather than the few. Our economy has become dangerously unbalanced, skewed towards London and the financial sector, while our once proud industrial communities have had to live through decades of barely managed decline. Productivity and investment lag well behind our nearest competitors, our balance of payments is in deficit, and the insecure, low-paid work is spreading. Leaving the EU will make addressing these issues, weaknesses, even more urgent. That's why a Labour government is vital, to take a more active role in our economy, working with employers and trade unions to fuel growth and deliver prosperity to every corner of this country, powered by our National Investment Bank and National Transformation Fund. Labour's industrial strategy will deliver the investment our economy so desperately needs. And our Shadow Business Secretary, Rebecca Long-Bailey, will be setting out more details of how our investment and transformation plan for Britain will be introduced tomorrow morning in York. Soon, we will no longer be members of the EU, but agreeing a deal that delivers the benefits of the European Single Market and Customs Union will be a priority for a Labour government. Leaving the EU will mean an end to the free movement of workers between Britain and Europe. So Labour's new rules for managed immigration from Europe will be fair and based on what's best for the economy and of all of our communities. We'll start with a package of strong labour market regulation measures which will stop the endless undercutting of terms and conditions by unscrupulous employers, often through agency recruitment, which has fuelled the most recent movements of low-paid workers to this country. We will crack down on unscrupulous employers, stop overseas-only recruitment of workers, strengthen safety and protections at work, and give all workers equal rights from day one in the job. and increased prosecutions of employers evading the minimum wage. And for areas where immigration has placed a strain on public services, we will reinstate the Migrant Impact Fund, scrapped by the Tories and the Lib Dems after the 2010 election. Labour's team will also guarantee and expand the rights and protections that British workers have secured through EU legislation. We will bring forward specific rights and protections bill that will lock those protections into UK law. The Conservatives simply cannot be trusted on rights at work. They've led an all-out assault on workers' rights through their Trade Union Act. Boris Johnson has demanded that the government should scrap the EU social chapter. And the Conservatives also failed to back Labour's efforts in Parliament to protect workers' rights, which are derived from the European Union. Labour will not only protect our existing rights, we will extend them. And our strategy is to keep Britain safe. Unlike the Tories, we will not threaten to withdraw from security cooperation of our European allies to get our way. We share similar values, and the solidarity shown by people across Europe after the recent horrific attacks in Manchester, or indeed far right or any other attacks that have happened anywhere across Europe, underlines that point of common decency and solidarity. We need to work together to make Britain safer and Europe safer altogether. So, Labour will use Brexit negotiations to confirm our commitment to cross-border agencies such as Europol and Eurojust, and we will seek to continue to use the European arrest warrant. We will also hire 10,000 more police officers to make our communities safer, and an additional 1,000 people to help with our security services dealing with the threat of terrorism such as we saw in Manchester. Labour is clear that the safety of our citizens should never be used as a bargaining chip. The choice in this election is not Brexit or no Brexit. That has been settled. The choice is between a jobs-first Labour Brexit and a reckless Tory Brexit based on a race to the bottom in working conditions and corporate taxes. The choice is who you trust to fight for your future. A weak and wobbly Tory party, which can't even stick to its own manifesto commitments for a week, which always puts the wealthy and big business first. Or a Labour team with clear principles, proven confidence, which will put jobs, living standards and our common interest first. Yes. We have a plan to transform Britain into a high-skill, high-wage economy and build new trading relationships across the world. Build a fairer country that the millions who voted both Remain and Leave last year want to see. By standing for the many, not the few, Labour is the only party which can overcome the divisions of last year's referendum and deliver a Brexit that brings our country together. On June the 19th, Labour will be ready to negotiate a Brexit for the many, not the few. That's my promise to all of us here today and all of our country. I'd also say this. We have 1 week until the general election. Look around you in this hall today. We're young, we're old, we're black, we're white, we're gay, we're straight, we're disabled, we're not disabled. We are a microcosm of the whole country. And what brings us together? A determination that we will have a government that will not walk by on the other side while so many are underpaid, so many children brought up in poverty, schools told to collect at the school gate to pay for the teachers, NHS workers stressed beyond belief while trying to cope with unnecessary shortages created by a government that doesn't fund it properly, and young people whose ambitions are damaged because they couldn't get a nursery place, their primary school couldn't help them as much as it should have done, and secondary schools, again, underfunded in trying to decide which teacher to sack, which subject to close down, and students ambitious for themselves and our community, wanting to go to university, frightened by the level of debt they will get into by going to university. It's time for a change in this country. time for a change. And I urge all of you here today, if you've got any time over the next week, and I'm sure you have, it's lovely weather, go in the cafes, go in the bars, go on the buses, go anywhere you like, just talk to people about what they think would be better in our society. Are they happy with this degree of inequality? Are they happy with this degree of underfunding of our public services and the way so many of our young people, instead of being optimistic about the future, are so nervous about the future because they feel they can't achieve everything they want to? It's not young versus old. It's all of us doing things together, a society that helps each other. Please think about it, go for it, and vote Labour next Thursday.
Isn't that great? It doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be this way. There is an alternative. We've got got a little bit of time, less time than I thought we were going to have, but to take some questions. It is hot in here. Can I congratulate particularly the youngsters in the room for being so good in this really hot room? Brexit is about all of us, but I tell you, it's so much about the younger generation too, isn't it? I think there's somebody here from the BBC, but I couldn't see her. Is she? It's Vicky. Vicky, okay. Vicky, I think you've got a question.
Vicky, on immigration, can you explain whether you think that the net number of people coming to the country should be reduced, and also what kind of system you would introduce when we have a system after Brexit?
Do you want to take that, or should we start with Keir? Yeah, Keir, do you want to start with that?
Shall I come up?
Yeah.
What we've consistently said about immigration is that freedom of movement comes to an end when we leave the EU. And therefore we have the chance that we've not had for many, many years to have new rules on immigration. And the new rules should be fair and they should be effective. We are not going to set a number in the way the Tories have, because that is the wrong approach. We have said that the drivers of immigration, such as the skill shortage or exploitation, have to be dealt with, and that will lower the numbers because they're drivers of immigration. So the direction of travel is clear, but we're not setting an arbitrary limit. Thank you.
We've got Francis here from the Times. Oh, there you are. How am I supposed to see you when you're over there? Have you got a question as well?
Hi, Jeremy. While we've been in here, the new polls come out saying that you're heading, that there's a further narrowing of the polls. You're now heading to... But you're only really on the edges of a hung parliament. Don't you owe it to people to be straight about the principles that you will use entering negotiations? How far are you prepared to go to keep Theresa May out of number 10? Would it extend to, for instance, asking Sinn Féin members to take their seats to the coalition?
All right, everybody, no, come on. We all agreed that we should have a free press. They're allowed to ask questions no matter how stupid. And shouldn't be booed. Sorry, Francis.
That's right. Which bits of the manifesto are non-negotiable?
Well, it's a wonderful question. Thank you very, very much indeed. Unfortunately, I'm not sure my answer is going to be terribly helpful to you. Because first of all, I never comment on opinion polls, whatever they're saying. The only poll I'm interested in is the one next Thursday. And in this election, something very interesting happened. The cynics started this election by saying nothing can change, nothing can alter, nothing can happen. And do you know what's happened? Thousands and thousands and thousands of people have come into our campaign offices, met up with our candidates and got out there door knocking, donating small sums of money to the Labour Party. The average donation is £22. I suspect the average donation to the Conservatives is slightly more. Add a number of noughts to that figure. And there's a movement going on. 2 million more people, more than 2 million, have registered to vote who hadn't voted before. Many of those are young people. There's a mood out there about wanting something different. There's a mood out there that wants something very different, and it's not age generated. It's everybody wants something different. They want a decent, fairer society. They're fed up with a rigged economy and a rigged system that leaves so many in such difficulties. And so we're fighting every constituency to win this election, to form a Labour government. We're not doing deals. We're not doing coalitions. We're not doing any agreements. We are fighting to win this election on a manifesto that I'm very proud of because it will fundamentally transform our society. And that is what we're looking forward to doing on June the 9th.
Francis, we're fighting to win, and we're fighting to win with a majority, and that's what we're fighting to do. If we end up in a position where we're in a minority, we will go ahead and we will put forward a Queen's speech and a budget, and if people want to vote for it, then good, and if they don't want to vote for it, they're going to have to go back and speak to their constituents and explain to them why it is that we have a Tory government instead. All right, but we will be, if we are the largest party, we go ahead, no deals, with our manifesto, with our budget, and with our Queen's speech. And that's the conversations we've had, isn't it? It's just like, that's it. You know, that's it, no deals. We're very short of time, but can I take Rachel and Faisal? Yes, Rachel and then Faisal, and then perhaps we can just take it.
Thank you. Hello, Jeremy.
Hi, Rachel.
Just to be absolutely clear, given what we've just heard from Emily, if you're not the largest party, you have spoken a lot during this campaign about a less high and mighty, more listening style of politics. So, just to be clear, are you ruling out a coalition? And secondly, on Brexit, you've mentioned the more calm and rational approach your team would take. There's been a suggestion from Brussels, if there is a new team in place, they would be prepared to delay the start of negotiations. Is that a delay you'd welcome?
Listen, let's be clear. We're fighting every election, every constituency in this election. That is the Labour Party's message. We've got a manifesto, we've got a programme, and we've got determined candidates fighting the whole country. We are fighting this election to win. And that is my message to everybody in this country. If you want a Labour government, vote Labour. That's the best way of getting it. And Emily and I are of the same mind on this, that we are determined to win the election. On the negotiations, we're ready. We're ready to get on with it as quickly as possible. If there's a suggestion that they would offer more time to get prepared, it's a very nice suggestion. It shows that they are looking to cooperate with us. It's rather better than the current government's process of megaphone diplomacy and threatening. And so we are ready to get on with those negotiations straight away. And you've got Barry, you've got Keir, you've got Emily, you've got very experienced people who will lead our negotiations. And we want to get on with it quickly because we want a number of these issues to be settled as quickly as possible, particularly that of EU nationals and tariff-free access to the European market to protect jobs in this country.
I'm beginning to get Labour Party people waving at me, so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and take 2 or 3 questions, and then we'll so, Faisal, do you want to ask us?
You've criticised, Jeremy, you've criticised the Prime Minister's approach to negotiation. If you are Prime Minister a week tomorrow, give us an idea, what would you say when you pick up the phone and talk to Angela Merkel? In fact, imagine I am Chancellor Merkel. What would you say that's actually different, and why would that be more effective in getting a Brexit deal?
All right, no, let me just take a more. Is there somebody here from the Mirror, the Labour supporting Mirror?
Hi, Mr. Corbyn. This seat, Labour came 3rd here behind UKIP in 2015. How can you persuade those 12,000 voters to back you instead of Theresa May when she's offering a harder Brexit than you are and she's offering to bring immigration down? Thanks.
And I think, Nick, you've been waving on this seat.
Mr Corbyn, a lot of your critics in the Labour Party said that this campaign would be a rerun of the one unsuccessful one run by your close friend, the late Michael Foot, in 1983. The polls would suggest that they're wrong. So I was wondering if after this election you're planning a group hug with those Labour critics to find a route back for them, or whether you think the sniping will continue.
Okay, that's a really helpful question. Thank you so much. Can I thank you for that question? You know what, I do a lot of group hugs with lots of people. I love a group hug myself. Because, listen, in our family, the Labour Party family, people say stuff. Do you know what? Sometimes it's best to forget it. And go forward on the principles of our manifesto about rebalancing our society so that people and communities are not left behind. We don't ignore the homeless, we don't ignore those using food banks, we don't ignore those that are going through a really tough time, and we recognise the stresses in life that so many people have. A government that actually seriously wants to improve our sense of community and fund it properly by taxing 5% of the population and the big businesses a little bit more. 95% will pay no more at all. On your question about this constituency and those that have voted for other parties in the past, I simply say this. If you go into an election looking for somebody to blame and always blaming somebody else and not looking at solutions to problems, it doesn't take anybody very far at all. Our offer is of investment in our public services. Our offer is of investment in housing for all in this country. Our offer is improving our infrastructure. Our offer is of a high-wage, high-skilled, investment-led economy with social justice at its core and unlocking the creative potential in all of us. That's why I'm very proud of one line in the manifesto on education, which says we will, in addition to all the things like free school meals in primary schools, we'll have a pupil arts premium so that every child in every school can learn music. That's our offer to the children of this country. I say to those that have not had a chance to look at what we're offering in this election, look very carefully at what we're putting forward. A seriously thought out, comprehensive, fully costed manifesto that will actually improve the lives of a lot of people in this country. I think it's an exciting offer. I think it's one that's getting the most amazing traction, as much from older people as younger people. And you know what? I'm looking forward to next Thursday.
We've desperately overrun, but thank you all so much for coming today. Thank you so much. Oh, Faisal, did I? Oh, right. No, I did not. Faisal,
Take one question.
Oh, okay. There's one.
I'm pleading with Emily to give a question to the audience as well. Will you do that, Ita?
Yeah, no, go on then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Go on then, love.
Mr. JC, hopefully you would have known about 1,000 people with presented on Westminster Factory Day Monday in protest of the Tories' pledge to repeal the fox hunting ban. Do you and your party pledge to remove all blood sports from political debate and place them under animal welfare, like over 80% of the population supports?
Thank you very much for that. I grew up in rural Shropshire, and the first speech I ever made in my school was of the need to ban fox hunting, hare coursing, badger baiting, and even in those days, otter hunting. It was a strongly rural area, and I lost the debate. But I was in Parliament with Angela and others when we finally got the law changed and got the hunting ban through. I was there when we got the badger baiting ban through as well. And I first met Angela when she worked for the League Against Cruel Sports. You can be very clear that any government I'm head of would not tolerate this kind of barbarity which is called sport in this country. Thank you.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.